Hello and welcome. It's Kate here from Whole Self Leadership, and I'm recording this specifically for those of you who have been following the Conscious Conversations book club. We've been reading Philosophy for Life, and today I'm going to be talking about chapter 4, which is all about managing expectations. And this feels really important and significant because it's also World Mental Health Day, and there's no coincidence there, is there, if we think about it? Because one of the things the chapter talks about is based on a philosopher called Seneca, is that a load of our stress or our anxiety or even anger comes from expecting too much of the world or of other people. So just sit with that for a minute and think about how that makes you feel. I found it quite enlightening. And of course, I would associate it with colour, and I think what's quite interesting is that this beautiful colour, which is very bright, almost gold in colour, but it is a yellow. There is a bottle in the system that is this colour. This is actually a special that I had made up. And the bottle is called the sun bottle. So it might remind you of the sun. It's also, the reason I picked this one is because it's linked to the solar plexus chakra, and I was teaching about Manipura on Friday, which is all about will and control. And that seems really relevant to this conversation, you know. Because often the pain comes when we try and force things. And believe you me, I know all about that because I have a lot of masculine energy. And for years, thought I could control everything and tied myself up in knots instead. Then ironically, perhaps, the colour yellow is linked to joy, which is one of the highest vibrations energetically you can get. So you have both of these very counter or contrary emotions playing out in yellow. And when I was thinking about it, I was really attracted to this spritzer. It's a very different colour. It's blue, which is called Dolphin, because I'm wearing a dolphin in my ear today. You probably can't see that. Maybe you can now. And dolphins are about play. So then I went to this bottle, which is another special which I had made up, which is yellow and blue. How do you feel about that? That is actually a brilliant bottle to work with if you're working with young people who are on the spectrum, be that dyslexia, autism, those sorts of things. It can really help to unscramble the mind, to reconnect. So back to the book, because that was a bit of a side issue, but I wanted to share some of that because it's what was coming up, and it's the bonus of doing it with me because I love talking about colour. Seneca was one of the first people to write about anger, and his ideas on anger management are used in anger management therapy today. So if you get angry and find yourself getting in that place, think about these things and it may help. Often what causes it is if we feel somebody has behaved in a way that's unacceptable to our view of the world. And so we get angry about it. And actually a dear friend of mine was pretty angry with me a few months ago because he felt that I had been perhaps too hasty with a mutual friend of ours and was really hurting for them. And so I was at the brunt of his anger. And those things do happen. And Seneca said, can you just accept that people are going to behave that way? And sometimes people don't know any better. It's in their personality. It's not that they're trying to be rude or wrong, but that's how they are. And sometimes we get angry because we feel the world owes us. But the world owes us nothing. And actually we're receiving so much from consciousness, from logos, or logos, as the Greeks and Romans would have said, you know, this sort of cosmic intelligence. If we can be open to that, then we can be in flow. So I think what we're talking about here, which actually was what I was talking about when I was talking about Manipura on Friday, is to go from needing to control everything to get to a place of allowing. Notice what happens when you start to allow more things in your life, to allow space for the uncertainty of not knowing what's going to happen. Because control comes when we don't trust ourselves, we don't trust life to deliver. So we've got to create it, because if we don't, it's not going to happen. But actually, if we just let go, we surrender to life, to whatever shows up, and it's all going to go well. And an example I want to share with you is this morning, what happened to me. And I think this is relevant for this chapter, really. I got up at the crack of dawn for a Sunday, at 7 o'clock, to get my daughter to the river because she was rowing in ahead and she needed to be there by 7:30. Anyway, I got her there, drove back, got breakfast for everybody, then walked down about 20 minutes later, or half an hour later, with Benji, my dog. And I got to the river and I went on the butterfly bridge, as we call it. And I'm looking down, waiting for her to row up in a quad. And there are other people there, and I let Benji off the lead because he's an 8-month-old pup, 8 months today, in fact. And I was happy with that. And everything was fine. And then this lady appeared with a husky dog. And either she was worried the husky was going to ravage the dog, or he was scared of dogs, I don't know, but she had this anxious look on her face. And so I called Benji, but he didn't come because he's doesn't always come when he doesn't want to or not close enough. But I was able to grab him by his harness. And I picked him up, but as I grabbed him, he managed to wriggle free of his harness. So I had him in my arms and his harness in the other arm. And it was right at that moment that my daughter's quad started rowing up the river at great speed. And there was no way I could get a photo, which is what I wanted to do, because I didn't have a spare hand. And I couldn't let the dog loose because he didn't have his harness on. I just had to laugh. It was quite funny, really. Anyway, they finished, and then I managed to put him down and thought, right, I'm going to get your harness on now and tighten up the harness. And as I'm sorting the harness out, he gets his nose, because he's a curious soul, into my handbag. And next minute, he's running off with my house keys, which are on a large magenta pom-pom, in his mouth. I'm thinking, oh my God, if he drops them over the edge of the railings, then they're gone. Bye-bye house keys. And it's not just got my house keys on, it's got some other keys, and I'm not entirely sure which keys they are. So I'm trying not to allow the anxiety to overtake me. And in that moment, I managed to get the keys back and firmly close my bag, because it had a magnetic strip on it, and get his harness on. So all of that was done. And then I breathed, and there was a bit of a laugh, because obviously my husband then appeared, and he's like, oh, so he's my dog, it's like, it's your child if the child's naughty, and we laughed at that. And then he took the dog off for a walk. And in that moment, I started talking to these wonderful women who were also mums of 2 other girls at my daughter's school. And we chatted about all sorts of things. And after half an hour, when we're now standing under trees because it's raining, drinking a coffee, they both said they were quite interested in possibly coming and doing some colour work with me. And it all happened so naturally. And that is the flow of life. We're in the universal flow all the time, as long as we don't get caught up in our emotions and make up a story about them. Because here's the thing, we're going to have pleasure and pain in any moment. And if we can observe it and just see them as sensations, and even laugh at ourselves, not take ourselves too seriously, then so much more can come in. So hopefully that starts to explain what it means to manage our expectations, and gives you some food for thought as we gather later in this week to start to explore the Stoics and Stoicism. So chapters 2, 3 and 4. So have a good rest of your day. Thank you so much for watching, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Bye for now.